Welcome guys, welcome back to another episode here at the Shavio Ministry because of the Israel Yarah. Thank you again for being here. If you like the content that we have on our channel, please like, subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please put them in the comment section down below. With that being said, let's get started with this week's Torah portion. So, this week's Torah portion is BESHALACH, right? And so, we have been understanding how the Egyptian culture and mindset has been established in the Israelites, right? And so we have seen Elohim, right, God, manifest his power, right, his dominion, right, and demonstrate how he is the supreme creator of everything and the one who controls life as we know it, right? So Pharaoh, right, and Moses have been in this conflict, and so we will see in a small PowerPoint that I prepare the contrast that has been going on, right? We have seen the God, we have seen the mythology that they believe in, and so we have established that the Egyptians had a conception or preconception of how life worked and how creation was established by their gods or their God, right? There was a time where there was monotheism, very short time, right, in Egypt, but after that there was many gods, right? 185 or so gods and more, right? And so each god, based on nature, provided them with some type of protection or provision, right? And so Elohim, in a way, judged that mindset that men can create and dictate how the world works and how things come to be, right? That there is a supreme creator. So we're going to see a little bit here, right? So we're going to do the Torah blessing. Blessed are you, Elohim, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and has commanded us to study the words of your Torah. Please, Adonai, our Elohim, that the words of your Torah are pleasant to our mouth and to the mouth of your people, the house of Israel, and that we and our children and the children of the house of Israel know your name and become students of your Torah for its essence. Blessed are you, Elohim, King of the universe, who has chosen us from among the nations and has given us the Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, giver of the Torah. Amen. So, this week's Torah portion is BESHALACH, right? And it's Exodus 18, verse 17 through chapter 17, verse 16, right? And it starts like this. It says, Vayechi BESHALACH Pharaoh et Ha'am Walo Nacham Elohim. The Haftorah portion for this week, or the prophets, is Judges chapter 4, verse 4 through chapter 5, verse 31. Like the Brit Hadashah, or the New Testament portion for this week's Torah portion, is John chapter 6, verse 15 through 71, and 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 1 through 5. Right? So we will see in this Torah portion a couple important things that I want to point out historically, and some facts or things that have been understood, right, to mean something different, right? So obviously, like we have said, the people of Israel in this portion are being let go by Pharaoh after the death of the firstborn. So we see Pharaoh let the people go, right? And Elohim doesn't let the people go through the land of the Philistine because they might change their minds when they see war, right? So this is the path, right, that Elohim didn't want them to cross, right? So the red line that you see here, arrow, is roughly the direct path that they could have taken to get to Canaan. But Elohim decides to lead them. You see that line, the black line that goes all the way to Heber and Musa, right, which is understood to be where they meet at Sinai, right? The road of the Philistine countries has been considered to be the reference to a road probably known in the ancient Egypt as Ways of Horus, and later known as Way of the Sea via Maris, right? So the war that it might be talking about on the verse 17 is against Egyptian forces, right, stationed around this route. Tel Hebua This is one of the most important Egyptian fortresses on the road called Ways of Horus, right? The Philistine road. From this fortress, it is believed that the kings from Egypt began their campaigns into Canaan, right? So it's understood that it says the road of the Philistines, right? But it might be an interpretation or something the author that was keeping the scripture intended to put, so that way we can pinpoint that road. But the Philistine is understood to come after, right? This conquest or this exit of the people of Israel from Egypt, right? So in that moment in time, those routes were controlled by Egypt, because Egypt was one of the most powerful empires, if not the most powerful empire in the world. And so that road that they could have taken that was shorter, it was understood to have fortresses, and this is one of them. And so if they would have gone through this roads, they would have encountered Egyptian supporters or Egyptian troops that were stationed in the way, right, to the land of Canaan, right? So just a fun fact, right? Because it says the road of the Philistines, but something that is known afterwards, we can understand that maybe right now is meant because the Egyptians were in control of that, so they were going to have to encounter them in a conflict, and they did not want to go to war, right? Moses takes Joseph's bones, right? So this is another point that is emphasized in this Torah portion, right? And it's from Genesis 50, right, verse 24 to 26, which is fulfilled. And it says, Joseph said to his brothers, I am about to die, but Elohim will visit you and bring you up out of this land to the land that he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Then Joseph made the sons of Israel swear, saying, Elohim will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here. Right? So Joseph died being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt, right? So it's fulfilled in this Torah portion that now, after the Israelites are let go, Moses fulfilled this and takes the bones of Joseph back to Canaan, right? Now, this is one of the most epic parts of this Torah portion, right? And the crossing of the Red Sea, this is a picture from a beautiful movie, Prince of Egypt, by Moses and the people of Israel getting out of Egypt. And so Pharaoh has changed his heart, right, and decided to follow the Israelites with 600 soldiers in chariots, right? The Hebrew word that describes this, and I will show you the definition of the word that says that Pharaoh turned, literally means that he turned after he decided to let them go. He, in his anger, right, in his hardening of the heart, turned, and he wanted basically to take revenge, right, for the death of his son, right, his firstborn, and the fall of Egypt, the embarrassment that he had endured, because Elohim had judged him, and his core belief is God's, right, his foundation. And so we also encounter, and this is when I started teaching or doing videos for my youth, right, for our YouTube channel, I started talking a lot about the morale of the Israelites, right? Because what we see in the Torah is a lot of teachings, moral teachings that we learn from the people of Israel, right? Because we can know history, we can know archaeology and all these, Hebrew, right, the language, the literature, we can know all these very important things, but if we do not understand the moral and the moral purity that Elohim is requiring from us, and the moral standard that we have to live by, right, that is established by Elohim, it doesn't matter how much knowledge and how much wisdom we gain, if we cannot understand that simpleness of what is the right thing and what is Elohim's purpose and will and desire, then we can fall short, right? So here in this Torah portion, we start seeing the people being tested. When the Egyptians follow them, they become frightened and complain to Moses. But Moses says, stand by and see the salvation, right? Yeshua, of the Lord, which he will accomplish, which is very interesting when you see it. So Exodus 13 verse 17 says the following. Now when Pharaoh had let the people go, Elohim did not lead them by the way of the Philistine, right? So this is a BESHALACH, let the people go. And even though it was near for Elohim, said the people might change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. Hence, Elohim led the people around the way of the wilderness to the Red Sea, and the sons of Israel went up in marital array from the land of Egypt. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he had been made the sons of Israel solemnly swear, saying, God will surely take care of you, and you shall carry my bones from here with you. And then they set out from Sukkot and camped in Etham on the edge of the wilderness. And the Lord was going before them in the pillar of cloud, right? So this is the first time we see the pillar of cloud and fire by day, and the pillar of fire by night, to give them light, that they might travel by the day and by night. He did not take away the pillar of the cloud by day, nor the pillar of the fire by night from the people. Right? Now chapter 14 says, and the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, tell the sons of Israel to turn back and camp before Pi-hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea. You shall camp in front of Baal Zephon, opposite by the sea. For Pharaoh will say to the sons of Israel, they are wandering aimlessly in the land. The wilderness has shut them in. Thus I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will chase after them, and I will be honored through Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. And they did so. Right here we see the phrase again of hardening of the heart. And so Elohim is trying to make a point, and not just to Egypt but to the world, right? That he is the creator and Israel is the chosen people. These are the people that the creator of everything has chosen, right? And so we're seeing that being displayed in this Torah portion. The king of Egypt was told that the people had fled. Pharaoh and his servants had changed their heart towards the people, and they said, what is this we have done, that we had let Israel go from serving us? So he made his chariots ready and took his people with him. And he took 600 select chariots and all other chariots of Egypt with officers over all them. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he chased after the sons of Israel as the sons of Israel were going out boldly. The Egyptians chased after them with all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, his horsemen, his army, and they overtook them camping by the sea, right? As Pharaoh drew near, the sons of Israel looked, behold, the Egyptians were marching after them. They came very frightened. So the sons of Israel cried out to the Lord. And then they said to Moses, is it because there were no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness? Why have you dealt with us this way, bringing us out of Egypt? It is not the word that we spoke to you in Egypt, saying, leave us alone that we may serve the Egyptians. For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. So now the people are frightened and scared, and they find themselves distracted by the onslaught that's about to come to them by the Egyptian soldiers. They complain, and they in a way forget about the powerful things that Elohim did, and how Elohim basically defeated the gods of Egypt, and how Elohim defeated everything that they believed in, and how he was the one in control, but they have forgotten. Now, understand this, we can't judge them, right? Because even us in our walk today, we have been delivered, and we're still in the wilderness, and sometimes we stumble, right? So we're nobody to judge, right? But we start learning lessons here from our ancestors. It says, Moses said to the people, do not fear, stand by the salvation, right? Here is Yoshua, right? In Hebrew, when you look it up, it says Yeshua, right? Salvation, right? Beautiful to see our Messiah's name. The salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you have seen today, you will never see them again forever. And the Lord will fight for you while you keep silent. And the Lord said to Moses, while you're crying out to me, tell the sons of Israel to go forward. As for you, lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it. And the sons of Israel go through the midst of the sea on dry land. As for me, behold, I will harden the heart of the Pharaoh Egyptians, so that they will go in after them, and I will be honored through Pharaoh and all his armies, through his chariot and his horsemen. The Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I am honored through Pharaoh, through his chariots and his horsemen. And the angel of the Lord, right, who had been going before the camp of Israel, moved and went behind them. And the pillar of cloud moved from before them and stood behind them. So it came between the camp of Egypt and the camp of Israel, and there was the cloud along the darkness. Yet it gave light at night, thus one did not come near the other all night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord swept the sea back by a strong east wind. All night turned the sea into dry land, so the waters were divided. The sons of Israel went through the midst of the sea and dry land, and the waters were like wall to them on their right and on their left. The Egyptians took up the pursuit, and all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen went in after into the midst of the sea. At that morning watch, the Lord looked down on the army of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and cloud, and brought the army of the Egyptians into confusion. And he confused their chariot wheels to the sword, and he made them drive with difficulty. So the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from Israel, for the Lord is fighting for them against the Egyptians." And the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the waters come back over the Egyptians and over the chariots of their horsemen." So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its normal state at daybreak, while the Egyptians were fleeing right in it. The Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea, and the waters returned and covered the chariots of the horsemen, even Pharaoh's entire army that had gone into the sea after them. Not even one of them remained. Here we're seeing the Egyptians being judged by Elohim, right? Their final judgment, right? So, as we have learned, one of their gods was, in the Nile, or the god of the water, Noon, right? And there was many other that were represented in this, right? But the main point was that they were throwing Hebrew babies, right? Male, right? Firstborn. They were being thrown into the Nile, being judged by these gods, right? And so Elohim has used their whole mythology, right, to not only demonstrate that he's Elohim, but he has judged them, right? He has judged Pharaoh's heart, right? Another point that I learned last week was that the hardening of the heart is also an idiomatic expression, if you can say, right? It's a way of saying you are judged, right? Or being judged, right? Understanding the way that the Egyptians believed to be judged in Egypt, right? The hardening of the heart was weighed to one of their gods' feather. And so if the heart was heavier than the feather, meant that they were judged, and they didn't live a just life or a good life. And so they were judged, and they were eaten by this beast that was in the underworld, right? And so by Elohim saying that he would harden Pharaoh's heart, he was basically saying that he was going to judge him, or he had already judged Pharaoh, not unjustly, but because Pharaoh had already committed crimes against the Hebrews. One, killing the innocent babies. Two, basically enslaving them for no reason, just out of fear. And three, refusing to obey Elohim's orders. So Pharaoh's heart was hardened because he and his greed and his pride wouldn't let him understand that his own mythology was judging him, and he had gone to a point where he was over, and he was over his own belief system. He was the God. So with that being said, let's keep going. The songs of Moses and Israel, right? This is a song that they sing remembering this moment, right, when Elohim's power was demonstrated, and he threw the chariots of the officers of the Egyptians into the sea, right? And so this song exalts Elohim and his might. And so we will not read it today, sadly. It's something that we will see next year, right? This is the beauty of studying the Torah portions yearly. But we will focus on something that is very important, right? Because in this song, they demonstrate their acknowledgement of Elohim, the fear of reverence to Elohim and his power, because he has demonstrating it, right? But here in verse 22, we start seeing something. It says, "Then Moses led the Israel from the Red Sea, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur. And they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. When they came to Marah, they could not drink water from there, because Marah, they had bitter waters, right? That's the name of Marah. So the people grumbled against Moses, saying, "What shall we drink?" And he cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree, that he threw it into the waters, and the waters became sweet. There he made up for them statute and regulation, right? So here's the first statute that is established. It says, "And there he tested them, and he said, if you will give earnest heed to the voice of the Lord your Elohim, and do what is right in his sight, and give ear to his commandments, and keep all of his statutes, I will put none of the diseases which I have put on Egyptians, for I, the Lord, am your healer." Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 dates of palms, and they encamped there besides the water. Now, chapter 16 says, "Then they set out from Elim, and all the congregation of the sons of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which between Elim and Sinai, on the 20th day of the second month after their departure from the land of Egypt. The whole congregation of the sons of Israel grumbled again against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. So the sons of Israel said to them, would that we have died by the Lord's hand in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the pots of meat and ate bread to fulfill, for you have brought us out of the wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. Then the Lord said to Moses, behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather day's portion every day, that I test them whether or not they will walk in my instructions. On the sixth day, when they prepare what they bring in, it will be twice as much as they gather daily. So Moses and Aaron said to all the sons of Israel, at the evening you will know that the Lord has brought you out of the land of Egypt, and in the morning you will see the glory of the Lord, and he hears you grumbling against the Lord. And what are we to you, and what are we that you grumbled against us? Right? So Moses said, this will happen when the Lord gives you meat to eat in the evening and bread fulfilled the morning, for the Lord hears you grumbling, which you grumbled against him. And what are we? Your grumblings are not against us, but against the Lord. Then Moses and Aaron said to all the congregation of the sons of Israel, come near before the Lord, for he heard your grumblings. And it came about, as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the sons of Israel, that they looked forward in the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in a cloud. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, I have heard the grumbling of the sons of Israel, speaking them, saying, at twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall be fulfilled, and you shall know that I am the Lord your Elohim. So that it came about evening that the quails came up and covered the camp, and in the morning there was layers of dew around the camp. When the layers of dew evaporated, behold, on the surface the wilderness there was fine flake-like thing, fire as of frost on the ground. And when the sons of Israel saw it, they said to one another, what is it? For they did not know what it was. And Moses said to them, it is the bread which the Lord has given to you to eat. That is what the Lord's command. Gather it every man as much as he shall eat, and you shall take an omer piece according to the number of persons each of you has in a tent. And the sons of Israel did so, and some gathered much and some little. And when they measured the omer, he who had gathered much had no excess, and he who had gathered little had no lack. Every man gathered as much as he should eat. Now here, very important, says, now on the sixth day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for each one. When all the leaders of the congregation came to Moses, then he said to them, this is what the Lord meant. Tomorrow is the Shabbat of servants, a holy Shabbat to the Lord. Bake what you will bake, and boil what you will boil, and all that is left over put aside and keep until morning, so that they put it aside until morning as Moses has order, and it did not become foul, nor was there any worm in it. Moses said, eat today, for today is Shabbat to the Lord. Today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the 7th day, the Sabbath, there will be none. And it came about that 7th day, that some of the people went out and gathered, but they found none. Right? Then the Lord said to Moses, how long do you refuse to keep my commands and my instructions? So we start seeing Elohim's structure, Elohim's order, and the people are starting to have a conflict with this, right? And so it is understood because they just come out of a system of where they got whatever they wanted, but they were enslaved, and they were in power before they became slaves, right? They were fruitful, right? They were in one of the most fruitful lands, right? They were just enslaved because of fear of how fruitful they have become. And so now Elohim has delivered them, and so now Elohim has set structures that they have to follow to not only obey him and maintain themselves in his presence, but so that they can organize themselves and understand that he is the sole provider of everything, right? That this man-made thought that man had control of everything, and that the gods will serve him, right? And that they had it figured out was wrong. And so that's what the Egyptians encounter, Elohim destroying their basic belief of how creation worked. And now Elohim is using Israel as an example, and he's teaching them, and he's trying to grow and mature them so that they can represent him, right? And so is the beginning of what Elohim's purpose could have been and should be, right? But there's an intricate moral aspect to this that the people of Israel are not understanding, and it's obedience, right? And I've been teaching this for a lot of my videos, and I am sorry if I have become very repetitive, but understand this. In the simplest thing that you can listen to this, it says, how long are you going to disobey my commands? Shabbat is a holy convocation, right? Yes, there's no specific way to keep the Sabbath, right? But we have to understand that there's guidelines and structures established by leaders that were approved by Elohim. And so we keep the Sabbath holy, right? The Sabbath is not yours. The Sabbath is Elohim's, right? Elohim tells you to prepare. Elohim tells you to separate it, because if you believe in the God of the Bible, the Sabbath is one of the most important things, because that day you not only find yourself with Elohim and you encounter him, but it's the day that when you keep the Sabbath, you say, there is a true living Elohim, a true living God enthroned in the heavens. There is a true creator. There is a creator that destroyed Egypt. There is a creator that delivered Israel from bondage. There is a creator that gives promises, and is a creator that rose a Messiah from the dead because he was judged unjustly by men. And through that man, there is a creator that has given salvation to the world. And so one simple thing of being zealous of the Sabbath and being zealous of the commands of Elohim can change the world. But just like Israel, we miss to understand this simple instruction of obey my commandments and my statutes. Okay, so we're going to go real quick to John chapter 6, right? And we're going to read a little bit here. It says, John 6, verse 16 says, and when evening came, his disciples went down to the sea and got into the boat and started across the sea to Capernaum, and it was now dark, and Yeshua had not yet come to them. The sea became rough because a strong wind was blowing. When they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Yeshua walking on the sea and coming near the boat, and they were frightened. But he said to them, it is I, do not be afraid. And then they were glad to take him into the boat, and immediately the boat was at land to which they were going. Right? On the next day, a crowd remained on the other side of the sea, that there had been only one boat there, and that Yeshua had not entered the boat with his disciples, but the disciples had gone away alone. Right? And so it says, so when the crowd saw that Yeshua was not there, nor his disciples, they themselves got into the boat and went to Capernaum seeking Yeshua. And when they found him on the other side of the sea, they said to him, Rabbi, right, teacher, when did you come here? And Yeshua answered, truly, truly, I say to you, you're seeking me, not because you saw signs, but because you ate and you were fulfilled of loaves. Do not work for the food that perishes, but for the food that endures to eternal life, which the sons of men will give to you. For on him Elohim the Father has set his seal. Then they said to him, what we must do to be doing the works of Elohim? Yeshua answered, this is the work of Elohim, that you believe in him who he has sent. So they said to him, then what sign do you do that we may see and believe? What word do you perform? Our fathers ate manna in the wilderness, as it written, and gave them bread from heaven to eat. Yeshua then said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, it was not Moses who gave you the bread from heaven, but my Father gives you the true bread from the heaven. For the bread of Elohim, he who comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. They said to him, Sir, give us this bread always. And Yeshua said to them, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall never thirst. But I said to you that you have seen me and yet not believed. All that the Father gives me will come to me, and whoever comes to me I will never cast out. For I have come down from heaven, not to do my own will, but the will of whom who sent me. And this is the will of him who sent me, that I should lose nothing of all that he has given me, but raise it up on the last day. For this is the will of my Father, that everyone who looks on the Son of Man and believes in him shall have eternal life, and I will raise him up on the last days. Right? So Yeshua says that doing the Father's will is raising up what he has given him. Right? Yeshua said that he rose the Father, he represented the Father by showing and demonstrating what the Father had given him. The Father gave Yeshua life and gave him a life in Torah and order. Yeshua is our Messiah and delivered us and gave us access to the Father because he was obedient, because he listened to the statutes and the commands of his Father and stayed pure morally. Yeshua encountered the same thing that Elohim is going to start to encounter with Israel. No matter how many miracles, no matter how many powerful things Yeshua does, and no matter how many powerful things Elohim does, the people were never satisfied because they never took their eye off themselves and focused on Elohim, the one who created them and provided for them. They did not put their loyalty on the Creator. They focus on their frustrations, they focus on their desires, and they focus on what they had and did not acknowledge what they have today or they had in that moment. And we have this problem that we think to look back and wish that times from that times from the past come back, and we do not appreciate what Elohim has given us today and how we are capable of learning and growing every day. Israel is going to start learning quickly the statutes of the Lord. And something that I teach my youth is every time it talks to Israel and these Torah portions is speaking to you. So if you're seeing this, everything that you read in these Torah portions are addressed to you if you believe in the God of Israel and if you believe in Yeshua, our Messiah, and that he has been risen by the Father from the dead. and He is going to be interceding for you in the heavenly temple. So as you are being released, or you have been released, right, from the world, and have been released from bondage to obey Elohim, understand this. Until when are you going to disobey Elohim's statutes, Elohim's commands? And when are you going to start being more obedient and understanding of the will of the Father and being open-minded? Ask yourself that question, and you will understand Elohim's purpose. Have a great week. Shabbat Tov and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.